I like watching him bleed on the court. Those were the words from Joe Mazzulla about Kristaps Porzingis in the Celtics Magic's Game 2 tonight from the NBA playoffs. Meghan Ottolini with Justin Turpin of WEI here coming to you right after that game wrapped a 109-100 victory for the Celtics, and it was a physical battle, Turp.
Yeah, it was right from the start, and it was only fitting that there was blood spilled in this game, and Joe Mazzulla enjoyed it.
He did tell us, was it at the beginning of the season, that he kissed the parquet
And it tasted like blood.
like blood.
Yeah, that was ring
So
night. Yeah.
It was kind of a premonition from him,
Yeah.
which is interesting. To start out with this week, it's been a wild week since we came at you Sunday after that victory from the Celtics, because Jason Tatum shows up on the injury report as doubtful, and we're both thinking like, oh wow, that's a surprise. Is he actually going to sit out? Yes, he sat out his first playoff game as a Celtic in his entire 8-season career, and in his absence, I think we just got a brilliant performance from Jaylen Brown. I hate phrasing it that way, honestly, because I don't want it to sound like an either-or conversation, but 36 points from Jaylen Brown in a spectacular shooting night.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't like making an either-or conversation either, but sometimes, like, when one of them's out, it has to become that, right? One of them has to step up, and that's the luxury of having two of them. And Jaylen Brown tonight joined Jason Tatum, Paul Pierce, John Havlicek, and Larry Bird as the only players in franchise history to have a 35-10 game in the postseason. So that just gives you a little taste of how special this duo is.
We were watching early in the game that Jason Tatum was on the bench. He was very animated on the sideline, but he did have what looked like some black tape or a bandage on the injured shooting wrist. Anything that you think of there? We've heard he's day to day.
Yeah, I mean, we still haven't seen him shoot. That's the thing, because he wasn't on the court yesterday when the practice session was open to the media. He didn't warm up today at all. Joe Mazzulla said that he was able to do stuff this morning, so they must have a shoot around. But oftentimes that's just walk-through stuff anyway, so we don't really know what the extent of the things he's doing. So I guess it's kind of common practice, I would assume, that he has something on the wrist, but you would think it'd be like ice or something because it's a bone bruise. But I don't really know, but it was interesting to see him having that black wrap around his wrist.
So let's get into the game itself. It was a tough start for the Celtics. They definitely, once again, really played into the Orlando Magic approach, which was highly physical. And even though the Celtics were getting to the line often, they ended up going to the free throw line 33 times during the entire game, while I think the Orlando Magic went 24 times, so quite lopsided there. They were quite restricted from the arc. Their three-point shooting, especially, we just heard from Kristaps Porzingis and Jaylen Brown, who were highly physical and the two leading scorers for the Celtics in that game. Kristaps went 0 for 5 from behind the arc, and that's just not like him. We were watching early in that game, Terp, sitting next to each other, saying he's getting the right looks.
Yeah.
He should keep shooting. They're just not falling.
Yeah, I thought last game he didn't get as many good looks. Today he got good looks, they just weren't falling. And he really turned it up in the second half, and shout out to him to get into the line, because that's what kept them in the game or gave them the lead at the half, is because they were able to get to the free throw line. I think they shot like 28% the first half. Like, it wasn't good what they were doing offensively, and that was probably my big takeaway from the press conferences we just heard. We heard from Jason Tatum, or Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, and Joe Mazzulla. And both Jaylen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis emphasized the fact that they kind of got lucky and they need to be better in Game 3. You don't really hear that after a win, especially one without Jason Tatum. Obviously, they're not going to admit it, but there is a clear want and desire to improve after tonight.
My takeaway from tonight, I'm getting kind of sick of this style of basketball from the Orlando Magic.
It's annoying.
It's quite annoying, and even Jaylen Brown said all respect to them. They're a team that hangs around and they welcome the physicality, but it's just like, come on, man. I went into this thinking that it was going to be a 4-game series, that the Celtics were going to sweep the series. I still feel that way, even though we don't know the future availability of Jason Tatum. But they said Cole Anthony told an Orlando Sentinel reporter, and I'm sorry I don't have the name off the top of my head right now, that they want to muck it up, and that's the goal. And that's what they did, and they even got into Al Horford's brain a little bit. Al Horford got heated at one point and got into a bit of a scuffle with KCP, but at this rate, I'm just like, you got Kristaps Porzingis again getting stitches on his face. Before it was the nose. This time he's got this giant gash in his forehead. He gets 5 stitches. He's going to the locker room, then coming back out with a ridiculous bandage on his forehead and able in order to shoot these free throws, and then going back to the locker room and then coming back out. And it's just like, what are we doing here?
Well,
guys?
just look at the people that have banged up in this series alone. Obviously, you just mentioned Kristaps. Jason Tatum missed a game because of the wrist. Peyton Pritchard hurt his lower leg, hip area. I don't really know what it was in game one. He was limping around a little bit. Derek White took a couple falls. Like, they're playing hard. Al Horford took 2 or 3 falls tonight. And the Celtics say it might not bother them, but they're clearly getting a little annoyed by the physicality. It's
I'm getting
very
annoyed
obvious.
watching it.
I am too. It is obnoxious. And we were sitting up there for the first quarter, and we were like, man, this is flying by. And then they started calling the fouls. But that's the thing. It's like Orlando's daring the referees to call fouls. Like
thinking that they're going to get fatigued of it or something that's just going to let them play. I will say, I thought that there was a stretch where it was working in the second quarter, and the Celtics went 1 for 8 from behind the arc in the second quarter. So it did have some impact, but it's not sustainable for the Orlando Magic. It's not going to be the way that they make a meaningful impact in this series. Could they get a game that way when if Jason Tatum is out for a prolonged period of time? Maybe, but it's like, I don't know. I think it's kind of turning into a bad look for me.
I would agree. I think KCP is automatically becoming a bad guy here.
A villain.
A villain in Boston sports. So, yeah, I would definitely agree. And it's not even just him. Like, Batazzi and Kristaps Porzingis had a run in December, and he was the one that hit Kristaps tonight. So, yeah,
I don't
agree.
think that was a dirty play. And
No,
I don't
no,
think
it wasn't.
KCP's was either. My
Al Horford did.
irritation is more that it's just sloppy. It's just this very aggressive,
Reckless.
physical, reckless approach. And I'm just getting kind of tired of it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely reckless. It's different. I mean, a lot of teams, especially with the Celtics, like, they don't do that. They don't commit a lot of fouls. They don't do much of that. It doesn't mean they're not a physical team, but it's just a completely different brand of basketball that we're not necessarily accustomed to seeing.
So, Tarp, I asked you this after the last game 1 victory. You said that you had a 5-game prediction for this series. Do you remain strong in your 5-game prediction?
I'm starting to waver on that a little bit.
Really?
This team is so dominant on the road, and hearing them tonight after a win, and they're just emphasizing that they need to get better. There's 15 to 20 possessions they need to improve
They
on.
sounded quite disappointed in their offense.
Jaylen Brown sat up there and like you would have thought they lost.
Yeah.
Like, he was upset for whatever reason. I don't really know what it was.
Kristaps was excited because he had blood on
Right,
him.
but when he was
and
actually
got
talking about the
stitches
game,
and got his WWE moment, but he did say
we need to be better.
they need to be a lot better offensively, which you and I would certainly agree with,
For
especially
sure.
outside of Jaylen Brown in that first quarter.
Right, they barely cracked 100 points. Like, they're a good defensive team, and they're making it difficult. But they have clear emphasis on wanting to improve offensively, and they'll probably get some film in tomorrow before or after the flight to Orlando. They have a shoot-around on Friday morning, so they have plenty of opportunities to kind of come together and regroup after this one. But, I mean, it's tough to bet against them going on the road, just how good they were. One of the best road teams in NBA history, second most road wins in NBA history behind the Warriors. So, yeah, I think I'm coming off that a little bit.
All right. Well, Justin Turpin, you'll be down there in
will,
Orlando for
yes.
games 3 and 4, so you can follow all of his coverage on weei.com, here at our WEI YouTube channel. Where can they find you on the socials?
You can find me on Twitter at Justin M. Turpin and on Instagram at Justin.Turpin.
Okay, you have safe travels,
Thank you.
we will be back at the Garden either for Game 5, or perhaps we will be waiting on
Game
another
1.
series. Either way, we will be back with you for the entire postseason.
All right.